In this series, we will be reading the lore text about the Cyberpunk 2077 setting from the book, The World of Cyberpunk 2077. This episode covers the first part of Chapter 3, Night City, about the history of the city, Watson, and Westbrook. 2074, A Knight's Legacy. This year, we celebrate the 80th anniversary of our city's founding. That's not long compared to other cities in the NUSA or elsewhere around the world. But for such a young metropolis, we already have some mighty achievements. Over the course of those 80 years, we've managed to build the city from scratch, screw it up by turning it into a playground for gangs and corporations, blow up city center with a genuine nuke, almost kick out the corpos, rebuild the city without government aid, avoid war with the NUSA, and finally, turn the city back into a playground for gangs and corpos. Not bad for less than a century. Night City's story may not be very long, but it's intense, that's for sure. The history of our city began in 1994 with a rich and enterprising guy named Richard Knight and his idea to build a perfect city. A few years earlier, Knight had split off from his partners, Halsey and Ferris, co-owners of a construction and development company aptly called Halsey, Ferris, and Knight to set up his own company, Knight International. Knight initiated an ambitious new project. He bought the entire town of Morro Bay, a small, neglected settlement near the border that divides northern and southern California, that had nearly been razed by a roving booster gang just 2 years earlier. The Army's timely intervention had saved the settlement from total destruction, and the ravaged and depopulated land was now the perfect spot to build something new. A safe, clean corporate city free from crime, poverty, and chaos, Coronado City. Knight found investors among the big corporate players by enticing them with lucrative tax benefits that boosted the economy and created a stable base for future citizens, the corporate employees. The project was a resounding success, and the fledgling Coronado City was indeed a wonder to behold. Thanks to careful planning, the city was well built, friendly, and safe, in post-collapse terms, anyway. Then, 4 years after initial construction had begun, tragedy struck when Richard Knight was murdered by unknown assailants. Popular conjecture is that the attack was arranged by organized crime bosses with connections to the unions and construction firms that had been excluded from Knight's project. Despite public outcry in response to Knight's assassination and initial opposition to the opportunistic crime syndicates, the mob successfully filled the vacuum of leadership over the next few years, turning Coronado City into a haven for criminal activity. Prostitution, assault, drug trafficking, and cyberterrorism became commonplace, all as the city was ironically renamed Night City in memory of Richard Knight. After a decade of ever-increasing crime and death rates, the corporations decided to push back. Over a period of a few short days, the heads of almost every major criminal organization died at the hands of unidentified mercenaries, and a new city council was established. council's first decision was to enlist the aid of corporate forces, empowering them to act in the best interest of the city and to establish peace and order within its limits. Most of the downtown and central districts were cleaned up within the next few months, and over the next few years, the most devastated parts of the city were pacified, razed, and rebuilt. Thus, corporate reign had begun. These were the beginnings of Night City. From that time, it's come a long way. The golden age of 2020, the fourth corporate war, and the nuke incident of 2023, the survival and the recovery periods between 2023-2040 and the great rebuilding between 2040-2060. Hey, we even managed to stay independent from the NUSA after the Unification War. That rich and colorful history inspired me to write this story, a journey through the districts of the modern Night City, to show its countless faces and moods. Intense, inspiring, thrilling, dangerous, and depressing. But each of them is an inherent part of Night City's spirit. So, are you ready for a trip? Watson. To explore Watson, I'll need the help of a local. I have a meeting in Afterlife, a club with a certain reputation here in the district. I had to call in some favors to get in here to talk with my would-be guide. My contact turns out to be in her late 20s, or she has an excellent surgeon. Her karoshi eyes change colors while we talk. She seems well informed. She already knows that I write stories about various Night City districts, and she's willing to share some information about Watson with me. She also agrees to give me a tour here for a price, of course. We sit over Bloody Marys, and she begins her story. Watson used to be a place to live and thrive. During the time of rebuilding, some wealthy Japanese corps had big plans for the district and poured millions of dollars into it. The Watson district had it all: tall skyscrapers, bustling nightclubs, a med center, and even its own industrial sector in the northern part of the district called the NID. It all ended when Saburo Arasaka and his corporation came back to Night City after the Unification War. Arasaka had their own plans, and to achieve them, Arasaka's rival corporations would have to die. Nobody knows if it was because of an old feud from their homeland, or if it was just business. But Saburo's lawyers and bankers finished off his competitors here, one and all. That's when Watson changed. The industrial subdistrict stopped providing jobs. A lot of people became unemployed, and Arasaka took over the Watson waterfront. Access to the sea had been their goal all along. Now Watson is the crappy part of Night City, the living area for low-income factory employees who still work in the NID's few operational factories. My interviewee orders a second Bloody Mary. She seems a bit more relaxed and talkative. She asks me if I've seen the roadblocks on all the bridges that lead from Watson to the rest of the city. Yes, I have seen them, but I don't know their purpose. That's because it's easier to contain the people from Watson within the district than it is to take responsibility for them, she says. The rest of the city has abandoned us. The rich and mighty don't like the idea that the poor might walk to city center. It would spoil their view from their shiny glass towers, you know. Little China. We exit Afterlife into Little China. My guide seems to know the area well. This part of the Watson district used to be an extension of downtown, and during the rebuilding in the 2040s, there were plans to make it a second city center. The corporations built some skyscrapers and top-notch medical clinics known as Med Center. It used to be the best place in Night City to spend money on body augmentations if you wanted to do so legally. In the late 2040s, the subdistrict flooded with Asian immigrants, mainly from Chinese diaspora, hence its name. During the following decades, Little China became overpopulated, and its exclusive tone changed to the current, more ethnic feel. Now central Little China resembles the poorer areas elsewhere in Night City. But the food, shops, neon lights, lingo, and flavor are all distinctly Chinese. The castes are all mixed up now with living blocks beside affluent condo buildings and illegal gambling dens next to the offices of legitimate businesses. Low and mid-tier corpos come here to have some cheap fun in casinos and strip clubs, and to mix with the poor and homeless on the streets. My guide says that Little China is not claimed by any particular gang, but the Tiger Claws often come here to have some fun. You'd better not cross them, she says with a wide smile. They're eager to make use of their katanas and tantos, especially when they can get away with it. My nervousness must be obvious, because she laughs when she sees my reaction. Kabuki. Kabuki was once the pride of the Japanese medical corporations in this part of Night City. It was situated adjacent to the famous Med Center, and as a result, the whole area flourished and prospered. Nowadays, with all the other corpos either dissolved by Arasaka or transferred to the other bank of the Gulf, Kabuki is possibly the poorest subdistrict of the city, not including Pacifica. We're talking about remaining functioning districts. But Night City hates a vacuum. The area was quickly repopulated with Chinese diaspora before turning into the shadiest bazaar imaginable. I visited once during the daytime, and at first sight Kabuki's narrow, tangled alleyways were full of chop suey joints, seedy cosmetic boutiques, and cheap junk shops, all decorated with Chinese lampions and flickering neon lights. But this time we're visiting it at night, and I can see the district's second face. Kabuki after dark is the heart of Night City's black market for all manner of illegal transactions. Implants, organs, combat drugs, prototype cyber augmentations, steroids, synth viruses, snuff brain dance recordings, you name it. It's all there to buy if you know right places and people. There are allegedly several black clinics operating in hidden basements or back rooms that install illicit military and prototype cyberware right from the labs of Chiba City or the top-notch Scandinavian bioclinics, or so the Ripperdocs all claim. My guide warns me to be cautious when buying stuff from an unknown source. Some of the merchants in the hood are supplied by scavengers. Those creepy gangers are the lowliest scum around and have an eye for clueless visitors who they'll drag to some basement before cutting out their implants and organs to resell to unscrupulous kabuki ripperdocs. Well, it's the circle of life of the urban jungle, it seems, my contact says lightly. The scavengers run their business undisturbed. The police don't raid the district. The only cops you'll find here are detectives lurking around, competing with fixers and corporate hired investigators, looking for some stolen corporate tech or missing persons. The whole area is densely populated, except for the northern edge, where warehouses and abandoned factories are occupied by various gangs, transients, and junkies. Tiger Claws maintain a presence in the area, as do some Maelstrom members from the NID, but neither of them claim the kabuki for their own. That vacuum has created a toehold for one of the local gangs, the Mocs. Lizzie's Bar, one of Kabuki's most popular brain dance clubs and brothels, is under their jurisdiction. Northside Industrial District, NID. We decided to wait for daylight to go to the Northside Industrial District. The NID, as it's called by the locals, was once Watson's prosperous factory subdistrict. Now abandoned and neglected, its factories are mostly non-functional and abandoned due to old earthquake damage and failed investments. No one likes the look or smell of the NID, my guide says. Wealthy assholes from downtown even built some shiny new apartment blocks at the edge of the district to screen it from their part of the city. Now those buildings are home to mid-level employees who manage the few operational factories in the NID. I guess having corpo apartments is really nice, but for those guys, it must be like exile to a foul-smelling, ugly purgatory. Still, people need to live here. They've come here looking for opportunity and a new life. They got their big chance with work in the factory, and now they are stuck in limbo, waking up, going to a shitty job for who knows how many hours, and coming home to sleep. There are no prospects of moving up. If you're born in the NID, you die in the NID, as they say. But those are just regular people. Some other residents of the NID are much, much worse. My guide asks me if I've heard about the Maelstrom gang. In fact, I have. It's why I packed a gun when we came down here. But the stories I've heard make me doubt that a gun would be of any use if we met them. She calls them freaking cyborgs and tells me that the NID is their turf. They use its abandoned buildings as hideouts, illegal brain dance studios, and warehouses for the loot they steal from the corporate transports. You walk into one of those places, you're as good as dead. This time, she's not smiling. Arasaka waterfront. The waterfront is the bulwarked island of corporate authority in the lawless sea of Watson. If you're not from Arasaka, there's nothing for you out there. Unless you're looking to steal something, of course, my guide tells me. In that case, be sure to cut me in. She doesn't like Arasaka, that's for sure. The Arasaka waterfront is an important link in the corporation's local supply chain. Official data states that hundreds of shipments come through the waterfront every month, packed and sorted by automated robots to be sent to other corporate-owned warehouses and outposts. You can't see much of it, though. The first act of the Japanese Saibatsu was to build a wall around the waterfront to keep Watson inhabitants at bay, gangers, scavengers, and meddlesome reporters like me. Reinforced with motion detectors, electrified razor wire, and autonomic armored gun turrets, the wall protects Arasaka property from unwanted guests and trespassers. My guide refuses to lead me closer to the main gate. If you want to go there without proper authorization, you might as well be walking into a maelstrom hideout. There's no difference. Your body won't ever be found either way. Westbrook, of all the places in Night City, Westbrook is considered by many to be the best place to live. These are the residences of the rich and powerful, idyllically situated on the hillside of North Oak, the most beautiful sub-district of the whole city. The second best is Charter Hill, the promised land for all ambitious mid-level corporate employees. Lastly, Japantown, the entertainment center of Night City, hosts tourists and corpos alike. But things here looked completely different 50 years ago. Parts of Westbrook adjacent to city center suffered significant damage during the nuke incident in 2023. The tall buildings of Japantown took the brunt of the explosion's shockwave, and for the next 20 years crumbling, naked skeletons of skyscrapers haunted the landscape of the once bustling Night City district. Charter Hill was flooded with city refugees, their tents and shanty houses spreading far and wide over the hills of North Oak. Then came the rebuilding in 2040, and step by step Night City began to recover the Westbrook most of all. Old construction was razed and used to fill the crater in city center. Asian corporations began to erect the new megabuildings and skyscrapers, restoring Japantown to its former glory over the next 30 years. The shanty town in Charter Hill was eventually liquidated, its inhabitants relocated to other parts of the city. The whole area was rebuilt to serve as mass housing for corporate employees. The temporary refugee camps in North Oak held out much longer, becoming a stain on the Night City landscape, and competing with the combat zone for the inauspicious awards for highest crime rate and most violent, until it was pacified and cleared by corporate mercenaries to finally become Night City's most exclusive residential district. Japantown, primarily inhabited by people of Japanese descent. Japantown during daytime is usually crowded with tourists for whom the many bars, fancy restaurants, gaming parlors, the cherry blossom market, and the Shinto temple are mandatory Night City destinations. Clean and safe by day, this district is a perfect spot for sightseeing, and it's just one bridge away from the famous Corpo Plaza, any one of whose many hotels are a perfect place to stay. But Japantown also has a second face, which I'm here to see for myself. This time I'm meeting with an old college friend named Mark. As a mid-tier corporate employee, Mark knows Japantown well, maybe too well. Together, we're going to hit Japantown on Friday night. Mark is treating. After dark, Japantown becomes the party district for the rich, corpos, and tourists alike. The corpos are looking to blow off some steam after another day of the exhausting rat race. The tourists are interested in more sublime entertainment and a wild night in Night City. Both groups visit the same fancy brothels, lose their money in casinos, and get drunk to the point of blackout. Both groups also have to be careful to not cross the tiger claws, the gangers that rule this district during the night hours. If you're a paying customer, Mark says, you'll be served properly in one of their semi-legitimate businesses. For example, Cloud's Club hosts the best erotic doll experiences in NC. If you do anything brash or stupid, you'd better have some friends in high places, or things will end up going poorly for you. And by poorly, I mean chopped off body parts, so tread lightly after dark. Charter Hill and North Oak. Charter Hill is a relatively new and well-maintained corporate district that was built from scratch during the rebuilding period. It quickly became quite popular among the upper class of Night City, at least until North Oak became more popular some 20 years ago. Nevertheless, most aspiring mid-level corpos work from sunrise to sunset in Westbrook or city center, then party in Japantown after a day's work to sleep off their hangover in one of the apartments in Charter Hill. Each of them secretly dreams of becoming CEO of some corporation and moving to North Oak. But that doesn't stop them from burning each other in the hope of achieving that goal. If you see someone not suited up in corpo style, they're probably an up-and-coming musician, artist, or well-paid freelancer who's rich enough to turn their nose up at Little China or Wellsprings. North Oak is the newest part of Night City. It's the exclusive residential district, free of poverty and gangs. 50 years ago, there was nothing more here than arid hills framing the northeastern border of Night City. After the nuke incident and the destruction of the Arasaka Twin Towers complex, it became the site of temporary refugee camps and favelas for the next 25 years. This situation persisted until the early 50s, when the NC government, backed by megacorporations, decided to clear the area by force. Proclaimed as a war against crime by the corporate-owned media, this action became a synonym of corporate brutality and prejudice. The North Oak favelas were pacified and razed by corporate developers, and in a few years, the area became the most prized part of Night City. Years of the ongoing corporate media campaign eventually watered down and finally hushed the whole incident, not only to avoid negative PR, but to raise land value. Many rich people were initially reluctant to buy land where some dirty homeless had once lived. These days, that story is all but forgotten, and North Oak is home to the untouchable elite, corporate CEOs, hedge fund managers, and investment bankers, but also to the various showbiz figures, BD producers and stars, and musicians. Outsiders are not welcome here, and private security is tight. I had to rent an aerial vehicle just to catch a glimpse of the famous district. We flew along the border of North Oak, since the flight zone over the district is also monitored by security agencies, and my pilot did not want to risk his license or his life by breaking the law for his standard fee. Nevertheless, the view was magnificent. The whole area consists of vast estates, some of them with their own microbiome and artificially created landscape. Both the Arasaka mansion and Carrie, Eurodyne's villa, lie in North Oak, because here it doesn't matter if you're a corporate owner or a renegade rocker boy. All that matters is how wealthy and famous you are. This is the place that every night city citizen dreams of living. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this audio journey into the world of Cyberpunk 2077. In our next episode, we will cover the remainder of the Night City chapter.